Dude, so welcome back. I guess for everybody who's joining us, as you already know, I'm Jason Gooley, and this is MetalDevOps, and you may recognize the person here on the call with me again today, Dan Lorenzo from Vessel of Light, who has been on before with the rest of the band, and it was a blast. And thank you again for having me and down in the rehearsal space and everything. It was so much fun. But Dan's got a lot of stuff to talk to us about because I think there's a cool video out there that I just saw. There's an album out, and then hopefully with everything going on in the world today, that you'll actually be getting some out playing gigs somewhere.
Yep, all that is true. The album's not out yet. Just the single "Last Ride" by Vessel of Light is out. The album's not out till October 23rd, but this is our fourth album in 3 years, which I think is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And then October 30th, we just found out last night, we're going to be able to play the Maryland Doom Fest Friday, October 30th. That is a go, so that's happening.
Dude, that's awesome. An actual live gig. Well, I'm sure everybody will be masked up and socially distanced and all that good fun stuff, but you guys are a little bit more protected on the stage than the typical crowd. But, dude, so, I saw the video for Last Ride. We have a mutual friend, Jose Mangan, who I was kind of pinging to see if I can get that on the XM. I don't know if it's on there or not yet or if they played it, but I'm confident it is definitely worthy. But, some of the things, so you're New Jersey area.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the things we talked about, I think, briefly in the last call was that the singer Nathan lives in Ohio. And everybody else is kind of geographically dispersed a little bit. So I'm just going to ask, how has COVID and everything going on changed the way that you make albums? Has that changed at all? Or is it still the same process, sending information back and forth between the different, participants and
just the only real difference is we wore masks when we were recording after March. I already had most of my parts finished. My nose is very itchy today. I don't know why. But I already had most of my guitar parts finished in January. So just like I did for the last two Vessel of Light albums, I do the unusual step of I record all my guitar parts first, which is highly unusual.
Yeah.
And then Ron comes in. Ron lives in New Jersey as well. He's just a little bit south of me. So he comes up and we record in, it's not Suffolk, New York. It's New York State, southern New York State. And then Jimmy Shulman actually got COVID. He's pretty sure he got it because he was down. Yeah, he was down and out for like 2 weeks, man. He was like bedridden. He sounded like an old man on the phone. So yeah, he's all fine now, though.
Thank God for that.
And then Nathan, so basically COVID sucks. Obviously, nobody's happy about COVID, but if it wasn't for COVID, I don't think our new record, Last Ride, would be out until like February because, COVID basically locked us in and made me write like 4 more songs that I recorded for the album. And then Nathan had much more time off. His bar that he was working at, the pizzeria restaurant, they closed, obviously. Jimmy's job, he was basically put on hiatus for a little bit. So we basically had more time to perfect our craft, and I wrote the album with Nathan, and Jimmy and Ron kicked ass. They had more time than usual to prepare their parts. So I cannot wait for you to hear it, Jason. It's just so amazing.
Dude, I'm stoked. I am absolutely stoked. I wish I could get to Maryland for that. That'd be a cool thing to come check out. But it's been one of those things where COVID has kind of helped us in a way. And then I feel bad for all the people who've gotten sick, and I've got friends and some family who've gotten it. But one of the things that I keep coming back to is that it's also given us an ability to slow down, right? I mean, we were on a fast track, and I say we, and I don't mean just me and you. I mean just in general, like from a humanity perspective, we were barreling down as fast as the speed of light, and there was no time to stop, reflect, relax, or even think about what we're doing or what's going on. And I think COVID has helped me graciously just to be able to slow down. I've even started meditating, man, just to kind of chill out, relax, and it's huge. I mean, it's a bad thing, but there has been some good that has come out of it, which I'm super excited about. And then in addition, obviously, this album is going to be something I can't wait to listen to. But yeah, I mean, there's blessings and a curse, right, at the same time.
Yeah, well, slowing down is not my specialty, and I don't deal very well with it. I find it very difficult to relax or sit on a couch and do nothing. But I mean, the worst thing about it, Jason, for me, is when everything closed, I guess everybody's come like, oh, make sure you go buy food. I'm like, yeah, food, great. And I forgot to go to the library. So I didn't have any new books in my house, and that was killing me. Fortunately, my guitar tech, Dan Garber, just sent me a book, but libraries still aren't open by me. And I'm not a big Amazon guy. I'm not a big fan. I don't see myself ever ordering from anything from them. I think they got enough money. But basically, my wife and I were watching YouTube videos, writing songs. And we had a pretty decent time, cooking home and stuff. But we really like going out to restaurants, so we missed it. And my heart breaks for all the small businesses that were forced to shut for so long. And in New Jersey, they're still closed. They're going to finally let the restaurants open at 25% capacity this Friday for the first time. So, yeah, it's heartbreaking. There's nothing good about COVID. I wish it didn't happen, but, it gave me some more time to work on the new Vessel of Light record, which is, I'm so excited about it. I get excited for every record I've ever done in my life. But I don't know. I guess because I'm older now and I appreciate it more than ever. Vessel of Light, the last one, Thy Serpent Rise, really all of them, Woodshed, all of them. And now Last Ride, I'm freaking out about it.
I have the last one right here. Bam!
Oh, right? That's where you
Serpent Rise, dude. Awesome. We've got some other stuff that was some fun. Some Cash is King.
That's fun.
Yeah. So tell me about the album. Tell us about the album, I guess you should say. Like how many tracks and what was the thinking behind it, or what's the genre type? Last Ride, looking at the video and watching the album cover, looking at that kind of makes you put some thinkers on it, what that might mean.
Yeah. So I would say I think I recorded and wrote the music to 17 songs, and then Ron recorded 15 of them, and so did Jimmy, and then Nathan picked the 10 that he. Not even necessarily his favorite, but the ones that he thought are the best melody line and lyrics for. And it's basically Nathan writes, horror lyrics. They're terrifying. Just like the Last Ride video, you probably don't want to watch it if you're home alone at night before you go to bed. So it's keeping with the horror theme, basically like, it reminds me of Forensic Files. My wife and I are big fans of the TV show Forensic Files. This album, Nathan is actually singing less gruff. He's singing with his clean voice for pretty much the whole album. And he's got some of the most original, unique melody lines I've ever heard. Some of the harmonies, just beautiful stuff he has going. I think that's going to surprise people right there. And I should mention J-Rod, my producer, or our producer. The sound quality, in my opinion, it sounds like we should be playing arenas and be on Atlantic Records. It's really it's happening. It's just a great thing. But we're signed with a label in California called Nomad Eel. And they're putting out cassettes and CDs October 30th. And, of course, it'll be available digitally October 30th. And then he's going to put out vinyl early in the new year for Thy Serpent Rise and for Vessel of Light Last Ride. So we'll have vinyl for the people who love both, vinyl.
All right. Dude, I'll have to get those because I just started. My buddy Tom Hazar got me into some of that vinyl. So he's going to start throwing me some of the stuff from Combat Records and everything. And I'm like, all right, well, then I was out with him and I picked up this little – it's actually like a USB turntable that you can plug in and rip the records to digital. Right. But it's also just a record player too. So I plugged it in and I got my little RCA cables and I plugged it into my interface and then I can just listen to records. So from the last time I saw a record player or use, I should say, record player, and we've all seen them, the big one with the clear top that comes off and it's got the 8-track player in it and all that other good stuff and it's on a rolling cart. That was the last time I messed with it, so I've been starting to enjoy the vinyl again. So that's really neat.
Cool.
One of the things that I wanted to chat about was that, obviously, with these different type of records and the things coming out, I know we were talking about wanting to get Nathan on the show at some point. So maybe with the virtual editions of MetalDevOps and some of the things we've been doing, maybe we can sync up a call with ourselves and Nathan as well. And maybe anybody else wants to join us. If Ron and Jimmy want to join too, that'd be cool. And then just do like a nice powwow about the album as well as some of the other things you're doing as far as the I think last time we talked, you were talking about doing some stuff for giving back in your local area too, I think.
As far as
like philanthropy to try to help people locally, I think we were talking about that briefly.
I don't know if we spoke about that. The only thing I've been really doing philanthropic, that's a tough word to say. is
Yeah.
I've been leaving much bigger than normal tips everywhere I go. And I work for a company called Painful Pleasure, so I donated some gloves to the local hospital.
That might have been it, because I think we were talking about hospitals and sanitary. I don't know if it was on the phone. It was definitely after the last interview, but there was something we were talking about. It was so funny because there's a guy who's a really great dude, Daniel De Los Reyes, who is the drummer from the Zac Brown Band. And I actually connected with him through the whole David Ellison Youth Music Foundation thing that I've been working on with the show. And he's doing something very similar where he's actually taking old drum heads, or even new drum heads, and cutting them out and making face shields out of drum heads and donating them to local law enforcement and fire departments and things like that. So it's awesome to see the different areas of music and genre coming together to kind of give back and help, especially in this crazy hectic time that we're having right now.
Sure.
But dude, so the other thing is that, we were talking about, the last album was Nice Ever Rise, and I love that. I love that. I'm still listening to Woodshed. I have downloaded everything, and I've just listened to every one of these. But is there we talked about the fact that there's a horror type theme to the music and lyrics. Is that more kind of like going down the Rob Zombie kind of path of I'm going to stick on this whole the horror thing, or does each album have its own unique?
Yeah. Well, so when I first met Nathan, the only thing I told him is don't write any pro Satan lyrics because I'm not into that, And
Right.
I love his band, Ancient Wisdom, his other band, but it's just not for me. But so basically, Nathan loves horror movies, and I like, I almost hate to admit it. Some of my favorite books have been about serial killers. It's so passé, but there's a book called The Iceman about a killer right down the road from me, a couple miles away, and how many mob hits and murders he committed. But, obviously we don't glamorize it. Obviously we don't ever condone that. Nathan and I, we don't even eat meat. We're like, we don't want to see any animal or human beings suffer. We definitely don't. But it just plays in really well with the music as opposed to singing about Vikings or unicorns or whatever. So, and I let Nathan, he goes off, he does the lyrics and the melodies. I just write the music. So I let him take care of that.
Dude, so it's so funny you say that because there's a couple things. So one of the things that I think is really awesome and cool is the fact that you're an avid reader, right? Most people don't even admit that. And you don't even eat meat, right? So there's two things that I'm gonna click on a little bit and dive into. But the first one is you're an avid reader, right? So what type of books? Obviously, you're with COVID, we're overlooking some of the fine things in life that we might not necessarily take. We might take for granted, like the library, like you said. I mean, I have two kids. One's 2 and one's almost 6. You start talking about a library being closed. That's detrimental. You know what I mean? So what book are you reading now, and maybe which one have you finished recently that you maybe want to share with everybody? Because I'll tell you mine in a minute.
Okay, well, my buddy, my guitar tech, Dan Garber, just got me a book about Winston Churchill. Right now, you put me on the spot. The name of the book is escaping me, but it's like a 500-page book. I'm on page 400, and it's basically about London, or really, England and Churchill before America joined the alliance, before Pearl Harbor, basically. And it's a pretty amazing book. Like when you think how London was getting bombed on a nightly basis by the Nazis, and people were still partying. They were still going to clubs. They were, he's talking about his daughters hanging out till like 4 o'clock in the morning. The Splendor and the Valor, maybe that's the name of it, something like that. But
I'll have to look it up.
I'll send you the screenshot of it after we hang up. But I got a Lincoln tattoo a while back because I don't like Bill O'Reilly anymore after I spoke with a woman about what he's like, but he has a book called Killing Lincoln. And to me, that was just I read that book about 5 or 6 times. I feel like it's such an amazing time in U.S. history. And I wish we had somebody like Abraham Lincoln right now that was running for office in November, somebody who's compassionate and articulate and does what's best for the country and tries to bring us together and still is young enough to have some wits about him. I'm a big fan of Lincoln, so I like to read about what he went through during the Civil War and right before it and during it particularly. One of my favorite old books is a book called Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. And that book is divided, as you know, into chapters and it's all different topics. But I love the broken windows theory And when I see New York City now going downhill again, I think we could use that. I think even though Giuliani might be a little crazy now, him and Bratton did a great job when, they did the broken windows theory, which is basically if there was graffiti, you cover it up right away. If there's a broken window, you fix it. Because if not, people have the mindset that nobody here is in charge, nobody here cares. So I'm going to be a worse person. So basically the thought process is that you and I could be nice guys. We could care about the environment. And if we were in a town that was really clean and nice, we would keep it that way. But if we drove through a crappy town with graffiti and blown out windows, you and I, even though we're nice people who care, we might be more apt to leave our garbage on the ground or in the street or whatever. So I love the tipping point also from a marketing perspective. I feel like everything makes a difference. So every time I send the Vessel of Light last ride to link somebody, it's just one person, but you never know. Maybe you get a new fan. So I've kind of used the tipping point by Malcolm Gladwell as a way to market myself, and also when I work for Painful Pleasures, a way for me to sell. It's not a sales book per se, but I love it. One of my favorite books of all time.
So he's an amazing speaker. So we had a global sales meeting. For everybody out there, I work at Cisco. I don't know if you can see it's over on this shoulder right down here. We had him in as a guest speaker. And my gosh, he's amazing. Like we were dumbfounded. Like, we want to have him back because he was just, his thought process and how he thinks through things. He compartmentalizes. Like I said, each chapter is like its own different thing. He has a discussion about each and every different type of theory. It can be completely different than the one before, but it's all relevant. It's all still relevant, and he's a fantastic speaker as well. So if you haven't checked him out, check out Malcolm Gladwell. He's fantastic. So the book, I don't know if you've heard of the well, right now I'm reading. There's a book called Everything Is Effed, and it's called A Book About Hope, and it's from the same guy who did The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. I don't know if you've heard of that. It's a bestseller, bright orange book. So now I'm reading the Hope version of that. It's actually really good. I mean, and it's interesting how he talks about metal and rock music as analogies, because he brought up Dave Mustaine, he brought up Metallica, he brought about all these different things of trials and tribulations that these artists have gone through, but still have to persevere through and everything. It was really interesting. And another book. Well, hold on one second. Let me see if I can find it. This is so here's the Subtle Art that I read. Subtle Art. Mark Manson, really good book. And then there's a blue one out that is about hope. It's called Everything Is F, and it's a new one. Then I read this book. I was going through a lot of stressful time, work, obviously COVID. My dad's not doing the best. There's a lot of swearing you'll see. You know.
I need that book, I think.
This book, it's a little itty bitty. It's only like, but it's literally laid out like almost like a self-help exercise book. And the lady who wrote it, her name is Sarah Knight, fantastic author. If you're going to read these, they're not PG. I'll just put that out there. There's a lot of cuss words in these for everybody out there. But this book gives you there's really nice charts that you can just sit down and there's fill in the blanks. I'm feeling blah, blah, blah. You fill in the blank, and it helps you think through some of the stressor things, and it gives you a rating scale. Like, is this imminent danger or is it more far? It just really does change the way you think. It's fantastic.
I'll check it out. Sure.
And my good buddy Dave Mustaine, I got to give him props. One day I was out in Chicago, and he was with me, and he told me about this book. And this book, I am not kidding you, changed my life.
Sure.
The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. There's a whole, I think there's 4 books. There's The Journey of Socrates. There's a whole bunch of them. That book, talking about people who care and trying to make an impact and doing different things and changing the way of their life, that is a fantastic book. I never would have thought we'd be talking about books, but it's just one of those things that, you take for granted. Something that's been around. It's been in print. This book, I think it came out.
Yeah, it's been out a while.
It's a long time ago, right? But it's still just as relevant today as it was, when it was first printed and written. So I think that's originally in 1980 and then revisioned in 1984. Okay, I was 1 year old in 1980, just so you know. It was just one of those things where it's like you with everything going on around us, we got to find ways to stay alive. And being creative is one of the best ways of being alive, man. I mean, I went camping the other day, and I took my acoustic guitar and my little interface, and I wrote some. It was only like 30 seconds long, but it started off where it was a really cool, clean riff. Then I started kind of like strumming to it, and then I'm like, well, it needs a little lead break. And I'm not a lead guy by any means, but I threw a couple.
Never mind.
And so then I took and then I'm like, well, then there's no beat to it. So then I'm like, well, I got an acoustic. So I hit record again, and I just, whatever it is. And then I have a 30-second thing that just sounds amazing, dude. So I'm hoping that I can even start continuing down that path. I'm not going on record deals or anything like that, but just being creative, it really does take your mind away from other things, to drum lessons, guitar lessons, whatever it may be. What do you do to calm down, obviously, or relax and enjoy life? Because obviously, we said you're reading and you just came out with a new album, and you mentioned you're doing things with your wife and staying home. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I do things with my wife because, I'm attracted to her, if that's what you mean. No, I know you're not.
A different type of thing.
The only thing that calms me down, and where I can really not think about all the stress of the world, is I play basketball, and I've been playing again for the last 7 weeks. And if I'm going to get COVID, it's absolutely from playing basketball. But I love it so much, and it makes me, I'm 57 years old, and I feel like I'm 23. I really do. I play with kids half my age, and I can play for 90 minutes straight. We play half court though, not full court. But basketball, because I'm not a natural, I feel like I was a natural shortstop, pitcher, quarterback, maybe even a songwriter, guitar player. But basketball, I'm not a natural. I've been playing for 23 years, Jason, and I still have to really concentrate. And I do it right. There's some days where I'll hit, a bunch of 3-pointers in a row, but you can't think about the worries of the world when you're playing basketball, because I have to do everything I can to not fall on my face, So that's the one time I de-stress myself, where I can mentally stop everything and just play basketball, But my wife and I, we were supposed to go to Key West in May, and it was postponed, and we went the first week in June, and it was so hot. But traveling is another time where I can really relax, particularly when I'm not in a big city, even though I love big cities. Traveling, we're going back to Key West November 1st. That's other than music and basketball, that's my real, fun in life, is traveling.
Dude. And you mentioned basketball, and sometimes you need to focus on other things to not focus about everything that's right around you all the time.
Absolutely,
and I literally, so I went camping. This is so funny. I'll tell you this funny little story. I bought a camper because I figured, why not? You're out in the middle of nowhere. You can be alone with your family or yourself if you need that time. You can be creative on the guitar. You can just unwind and sit by a fire if you need to. So that to me was my thing. Hiking and camping became a big thing for me. And it was so funny. I'm standing, as everybody could probably notice because I keep moving around. I bruised my tailbone the day before yesterday. And I had taken my family up to this little, I live outside of Chicago, about an hour west of Chicago, this little itty bitty indoor water park up in Wisconsin, and there was nobody there. So we were the only ones in the whole entire water park, which was pretty cool. And my son wanted to go down this slide. He's 2 years old, and the slide, I'm not kidding you, was maybe a foot and a half tall, maybe. And my wife would sit down, and he'd fake push her, and then she'd slide down, and he'd just laugh. So he wanted to do it with me. So she's like, come on over here. I'm like, all right, cool. So I did this. I slide down this thing. He pushes me. He laughs, and I land. There's a drop 3 inches. And I land right on my tailbone. I could barely walk, man. So bad, in fact, that sometimes not the kind of donuts I want to eat, but being vegan is the only donut I'm left with, dude. But, it's just one of those things. I think really finding your own way of, and I don't want to call it a distraction, but it's another way of living that I think that COVID has really given us, is the ability to find the things you love to do and enjoy them, in addition to maybe find something that you never really thought of that you love to do.
Yeah.
Like you said, if I'm writing a song, or I'm out camping, burning a fire and flipping logs or something like that, I'm not thinking about some of the daily stressors and things of that nature. And basketball, same thing. You got to be in the zone.
Yeah.
That's huge.
But I didn't play any basketball because of COVID. I was very worried about COVID in March and April and May. So I did not play. And my friends started playing the end of May, early June. I'm like, let me hold off till after vacation. But I feel pretty good about it now. Like I said, we could die a million and one ways. And I kind of find it funny how the government won't let me go eat in a restaurant tonight in New Jersey because of the danger, but cigarettes and alcohol and Burger King is still readily available. So it's kind of a little bit hypocritical, But anyway, I'm very, very excited in case you can't tell about Vessel of Light Last Ride. So it comes out October 23rd on Nomad Eel Records, and we're playing the Maryland Doomfest Friday, October 30th in Frederick, Maryland.
All right.
So excited.
You still is it Vessel Light Music? There was a VesselOfLight.com. I can't remember.
Well, we don't have a website, but it's Vessel of Light Music on Instagram, and then Vessel of Light Band on Facebook. And I'm Dan Lorenzo CK on Instagram.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for joining me, and
thanks, Jason,
for sharing all this information. I want to check out that book you were talking about, Winston Churchill, because somewhere there's a quote I have somewhere, and it's a famous quote from him about falling and getting up and rising up, and I think that's a huge thing. It's a testament to a lot of the music you're going to start to see. I'm actually interested to see what's going to happen probably like 2 or 3, 5, 10 years from now, after post-COVID, to see if there's going to be a period of time where there's albums where people are talking about like wearing masks and not touching things, because it's become a way of life. So I'm wondering how that's going to affect music in our foreseeable future, because it's going to definitely, it's affected education, it's affected everything else. So I'm confident it'll probably affect our music as well, but hopefully for the positive.
All right, brother.
Well, dude, thank you all for joining. We will catch you all soon. We will have Dan back on, hopefully with the rest of the band pretty soon, and then we will see you again soon.
Thank you, Mr. Cooley.
See you, Dan.